Hey everybody, inking a page from my comic Cult Descent, Volume 2. The It's a little blurry right now, but I'll fix that in just a second there. So this I had to break this up. I was inking this on 4th of July, and it was a pretty busy day. I went to go see family and stuff and watch these crazy fireworks show. Uh, Probably the biggest fireworks show that I've seen anyway, because since it was the America's 250th birthday. Um, People were just buying fireworks by the cases. It was crazy. There was one fireworks show that I was watching in the neighborhood, uh, but everyone around us was lighting off their fireworks too. And a couple of these people, at least one, had to have been on top of their roof because like we could look up and we could see all the fireworks like directly above us. It was crazy. Like you could just feel the explosions like in your feet and stuff, or and like some of the ashes would fall on you. It was it was awesome anyway, and it was like there was smoke everywhere. It was kind of out in the country area. Um, I don't know, residential, but there's like a lot of bugs. But there was so much smoke that there was no bugs around. Um, it was pretty awesome. So that's why I had to break this up into two anyway. So this video took me about 3 hours, maybe a little over 3 hours. I have it sped up at 4.5 times. See, you could see that I'm not the fastest inker if this is at 4.5 times. That's one thing I'm gonna keep working on. Well, I imagine I'll just like learning anatomy and clothing folds and all that. I'll be learning that as long as I'm drawing. uh, Hopefully, learning a lot anyway. The I want to use brush and nib. I practice on those every once in a while. Not to where I'm confident enough to start inking my pages with that. I'll just use these marker pens for it. Speaking of the marker pens, I'm using Master's Touch. That's the Hobby Lobby knockoff brand of microns. I don't really think of them as knockoff anymore anyway. The more that I use them, the more I like them. I was using them on the remarks that I've been doing, the acrylic remarks, and they the microns kind of scratch them up and they get like they pick up too much dust or whatever. They just seem clogged or maybe they run out of ink. The Steadlers I use work really well for them, and these work really well. So whenever I run out of the Steadlers and the microns, I got stocked up. I stocked up on microns a while ago when they had like a sale, so I bought a bunch of them while I could. But as soon as that supply runs out, I'm just gonna get these cheaper versions and just stick with those because I mean they're cheaper, so and they work just as good, if not better. Uh, so I like these, and then also with these, eventually, hopefully, I won't have to use them as often for these pages because I want to work on using bettering my inking skills with the brushwork and nibs because still feels like I'm drawing with these marker pens. Like for line weights and stuff, I'm just kind of like building them up as opposed to, of course, these are professional people like Sandra Hope and Scott Williams and Richard Friend. Like those guys are like geniuses at their inking skills. So, but when they, like when they do line weights and stuff, um, they don't have to spend so much time like building up a line. It it looks for the most part looks like they just do like one swipe with a brush or the pen nib, and like the line has so much energy and weight on it already. Like they just move on to the next line that they're gonna put down. So that is the level that I want to get to. And I could just use these marker pens to, yeah, go to a convention and, whatever sketch I'm working on. So I don't have to worry about uh, making a mess or anything. And also, that would, I don't know, that's probably one of the reasons that it's taken me so long to really develop skills with brushes and nibs, is because all the cleanup that you got to do, and kind of got set some stuff aside, stuff that could be spilled, like the water that you have for brushes. Oh, and pen nibs, like when you wipe them off and stuff, rinse them off when you switch them or whatever. And anyway, yeah, potential hazard for a waste. And in my studio area, I don't have like a lot of space anyway, especially when I keep stacking up comics to use as reference around me. I gotta always constantly gotta clean my area. Like I grab out references and I just leave them there and I stack them on other references on top of them without putting anything back. Uh, but in any case, like for using references, I like to not just look at reference for like what do you anatomy and clothing folds and shadows, which I do like to look at a lot of that stuff. Especially, I was looking at Joe Madureira and John Malin's work. Oh, and David Finch. I was looking at his Ultimate X Men work, and yeah, I like how Malin doesn't really do so much shadow work. I mean, he does, but I was looking at the shadow work, and then Malin's. I was looking at his rendering. Like, I don't know, something about it looks cool, and his blood splatters. Like, I'll start inking more like where Sakal. He's in the background there. He's got his hands through these guys' chests or backs. So I'm gonna. I was looking at John Malin's how he does blood splatter. It, to me, it looks really cool. So I was using that as like reference to try to repeat those patterns. And I was using the Joe Mad and David Finch comics to look at their shadow work to, get some ideas of how I want the shadows, where I want them to be placed, and which how I want them to be patterned to be as visually interesting as I can make it. Um, Visual interest, I think, is for the when I'm putting out a page, and that's the number one thing I'm going for. Uh, Technically, I guess it's storytelling. Okay, storytelling, and then like right below that would be visual interest, and I think that they go hand in hand anyway. That's so if, with this page, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to do the, they say the Z pattern because you to look through a page, in the U.S. anyway, we read things left to right. So left to right, and then you go to get back to left. Then you go left to right again. So that's like the basic Z pattern of a comic book page that you want people to look to. So for the first left to right, I have Sakal. He's kicking this vampire special op guy to the right, and then you could see his hands are kind of blown forward there, which brings you back to the left, and it, in fact, crosses over a panel there, which will bring you back to the right. So I kind of have a left, right through the whole page. So I guess like it was at two Z's. I don't know. But those are the things you got to keep in mind when you're doing your visual storytelling and trying to make it as interesting as possible. Incorporated those. Todd McFarlane really talks about this a lot when he was talking about like plane breaks. Those add those are like another way to add some visual interest. Like this guy's hand in the foreground here, he it's like going in front of his face to add more depth. Anyway, I was thinking I was going to call it a trick, but I don't think it's really a trick. It because moving that in front of the face and trying to make it look believable is, I think that's more of a skill, really. But anyway, yeah, putting something in front of another object is one of the ways that Tom McFarlane was saying you could break planes and make it more visually interesting. And because he's in the foreground, he's his boot there. I mean, he's bigger than the characters in the background, which is another way of like adding visual interest. Stuff coming at the camera. Of his the blood or spit. I think I'll have that be blood coming from his mouth and his boot in front of the Sakal's hand and that other guy that Skull's holding there. Even Sakal's foot going in front of the other guy. I try to keep his hand because his hand's supposed to be like all limp or his arm. I try to keep that away from his foot a bit more so it doesn't look like a tangent or like where the outline of his arm lines too much with the outline of Sakal's foot. So, the tangents are the things that you don't want to people to look at because, it looks a little awkward. Looking at this the small screen on my phone here, uh, I don't know if I think I look for tangents too much sometimes, so I don't know if I pulled it off, but the comic page will be a little bit bigger, so hopefully it doesn't just draw people's attention towards that, and it's drawn towards what I want them to look at, like this guy's neck tendons. I think I draw neck tendons too much sometimes because they're just fun to draw, but I think I did them all right here because this guy's he's in some physical anguish there, just getting booted across. They're fighting in a cave right now, and that's one of the cool things I like. Finally, in the story where Sakal he's coming out and he gets to do some fighting and just laying the smack down. So it's another. There's been a few exciting parts in the comic so far, but this is probably one of my favorite exciting parts. Is Sakal just getting a scrap finally. I guess I'll go into a little bit of the story. Is that in this world, vampires they live with humans, not exactly side by side. They're kind of like apprehensively accepted into society. Sakal he breaks out of this prison that he's been in for like thousands of years, and he immediately goes on like a rampage. So he's making things harder for normal vampires. Um, Sakal is more like a monster among vampires. He's a vampire, but he's a mutant, like an anomaly of a vampire. So they imprisoned him for I already said 1,000 years, but Sakal he breaks out of prison and he immediately goes after Henry, the MacGuffin. So Henry was having these issues his whole life. He's like an 18-year-old kid, uh, but he was being like psychically tortured by Sakal. He didn't know that it was Sakal behind his mental duress. But the closer that Sakal is getting to him as he's hunting him down, their psychic link gets stronger, and Henry knows it's this vampire that's after him, and he sees him uh, going on this killing spree with his doing his rampage and all. So he turns to his friend Andy for help. They before they could really even help him though. They Andy, she's a police detective, and at their precinct before they could really help him, Sakal does abduct Henry, and because of that, Andy joins the VACU. They're the law enforcement arm that deals with vampire attacks. VACU stands for Vampire Assault Case Unit. they're basically special ops, but they deal with the vampire attacks. And speaking of special ops, the vampires, the normal vampires, uh, they also have a special ops team. That's this team that Sakal is fighting right now. They're out to put Sakal down because, with his rampaging, he's just making things worse for them, trying to live in the human world. So it's a bit of a culmination there. Got the, I guess, how I was thinking about it in my head was the Starship Troopers, the Roughnecks. They're like the humans, and then we got these like true blood special op guys because they're like the normal vampires, and then we got these more monster zombie like vampires, Dusk Till Dawn type vampires. So at this point, things are coming to a head. Uh, there have been exciting things going on in the comic, but I think this is the most exciting part of the comic. I guess yeah. There's this is like the story climax coming up. So a lot of fun pages to draw. The fight scenes and more visceral action, and doing my best to make these pages as dynamic as I can. Like I was saying also before, the visual interest. I just want to make it as cool as possible. And this project is live on Kickstarter. It's got a little over 30 days left. I'll leave the link in the description. There'll be a catch up tier. So if you want to get volume one, you can get volume one. I wrote volume two to where you know what's going on. You don't have to get volume one, but if you want it, it's an option on there, so you could have that. There's I don't know if you've seen any of my previous videos, but the remarks I was doing, they're on a 24-page ash can. That's an option to get. The remarks that I was doing specifically were for giveaways. Whenever I go on like a live stream show, I'll do a random number generator for the backers, and then I pick whichever winner that is a physical backer, so I don't have to pay shipping for it. I'll just add the book to it. It's only a 1 ounce book, so it shouldn't make too big of a difference. If there is a difference in the shipping, I'll cover it. Um, so the the remarks that are given away are on the 24-page ash can. However, yeah, if you add a remark anyway, I'll do one of those pictures on whichever comic you want. It'll be a questionnaire at the end. Um, all right, let's see. That should be enough shilling for the comic, I believe. Um, okay, so those are I'm working on the blood splatters that I was talking about. I was looking at some of John Malin's work from the Thunderbolts. I got a bunch of John Malin's artwork around. I just gotta, just like everything else, I gotta get more organized with stuff. I put things away, but I just don't put them away organized exactly. So I do a lot of, digging up old stuff and scouring through things, trying to find references that I could use. Uh, I don't know when I'll have the time to organize anything. So I'm busy drawing pages now and getting the word out about uh, occult descent for the next month, a little over a month. Uh, oh yeah, and then that circle there for the panel. I still got to do another slightly larger circle than that. I didn't really think about it. I grabbed a roll of tape that's why it looks a little janky there because I wasn't holding the pen very well. And the tape, it's not exactly solid, so like it was a little spongy. Um, anyway, now I got to find something slightly larger than a tape to make a bigger circle around that. Um, I I might end up just trying to touch that circle up as good as I can, and then add an additional ring around that digitally because it's way easier digitally to add a circle that's slightly larger than that than it is to find a physical object that I can use. I mean, I suppose I could try out a CD, see how much bigger that is on a tape, uh, a roll of tape. Um, yeah, you'll kind of notice that Sakal, he seems to be missing his lips here. He's undergoing a little bit of a transformation. I don't want to. The previous few pages, I believe, are a little bit of a spoiler, so I won't entail on those. Um, he is. That's another. So he's. If you notice in the first panel, he's not wearing pants, so he's basically naked at this point. I was wondering because something happens to where like it doesn't seem feasible to the. I wouldn't say realistic because this comic book book is about vampires, but it doesn't seem for the what do you call the believability I have for the story. It doesn't seem that believable that he would still have pants, and that's another thing I was kind of arguing with myself about was because I was watching that movie Renfield with Nicolas Cage. He plays Dracula, and he there's like a few points where he like turns into just a big group of bats, and then he like flies to another location and he turns back into a fully clothed human again. But it's like how did those clothes get put back together? Of like he has control over his clothing too. And but I mean, it didn't take you out of the movie though. You didn't. I didn't really question that at all. So I was thinking maybe I'll do that with Sakal and his pants. But as I was drawing it, I was like, no, that just doesn't seem to really help the story at all. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll just have to be clever with storytelling techniques to not show nudity. I mean, I guess if like there's like one panel or something, maybe two, where there's like some brief nudity, then that's all right. But like, I don't want the. I think at some point there's like it's too much nudity. Now it's like taken away from the story, and people are just like because I don't know. This is not moving pictures. This is not animation. It's a it's a static image. So like one panel on a page could kind of like just draw the reader's attention to just one spot, especially with nude scenes. And it almost seems a bit overpowering for people's attention. Uh, that so it's overpowering for drawing people's attention. I mean, so like I want them to go through the page and just read the story more than. But yeah, that's something like I said, I'll have to be clever about. um, I am lucky though that there is like what stuff that happened. There's like a lot of ashes and dust because they're in this cave, and so like the more they move, they could like dust dust could come up and what do you call like block out things or make things not very visual, and especially since they're fighting and stuff. And it's in a cave, so it's dark, so it could use a lot of shadowing. Yeah, you get the idea. And another thing about Sakal being like a monster among vampires is he eats other vampires, or he can eat other vampires. It's not exactly like that's his first go-to meal, but when you're in a pinch, he'll do that. I don't uh, I don't think any other vampire shows show like vampires eating other vampires. I mean, I know on True Blood and Interview with the Vampire, when they're on Interview with the Vampire, like when they turn the other vampires, they like have them drink blood from them to like do the full turn, I guess. But in I think that's the only time that I've seen. I mean, I haven't read the book series, so I don't know ultimately. Uh, so that's it for those guys. That series, and then for True Blood, they I remember they bit into this one guy because they needed to get protection from the sun or something, and he had that, so they all like drank his blood so they could be protected. So I guess technically they can, like, in that series, drink each other's blood. But whatever. I mean, this dude, he's he's like eating a guy's heart in that second panel. So I haven't seen any other. Not to say that any other vampire movie hasn't done that. There's like billions of vampire movies. I'm sure at some point they crossed that threshold. I haven't seen it though. All right, so now I'm all the blacks that I was spotting. I'm like filling that in with this brush. That's another thing I like about these pen markers is their brush. It's very flexible and it doesn't break, so you can like press hard on that for like a thicker line. The only thing for microns is that it is very like it has a very sharp point to it, so you get really skinny lines. Of course, you got to be very gentle because the tip of that could kind of break, and that's happened to me every single time I used a micron brush tip. Was at some point it doesn't snap off, but it breaks. So then like the tip, you try to barely go, you try to get like a razor thin line, but then there's like two tips now because of the tip is like cracked or whatever, so it just like flops off to the side. And anyway, I haven't had that's what happened to every single time I used a micron brush tip marker. Anyway, it's a bit annoying, so that's why I like this one better. You can't get that razor thin line though with this thing. Uh, but again, like I said, it's way cheaper than those markers, so I think I'll just be using this one until I get get my skills good enough to use the brushes and the pen nibs. All right, Jose. Oh, I remember. Yeah, so some of the breaks where I'm like my hand is going away from the drawing table, like going to get coffee. Um, I did. Yeah, I already said that I was. This was the Fourth of July, so I was pretty excited for today. But I don't know. I think I'm addicted to coffee, so I was like, I might as well make another cup of coffee. And also, yeah, and that's all like a habit too. I guess like I'm just used to doing that before I start drawing. It's like, all right, I got my coffee. I should work on more healthier things like I don't know, go for a run, work out. But that's neither here nor there. All right, now I'm working on the boots. um, these I try to always just make black, like very little white. Maybe if there's like some outline of the straps or whatever, those sometimes that can sometimes look cool. But when they're pushed in the back like that, I mostly just try to black that all out. My plan for this was to do the outlines of all the figures first, and also do the outlines for the blacks. And then I did an X in there to for this part to fill in all the blacks, and then the rendering. So I pretty much stuck to that strategy. There are some parts where I I didn't quite have I didn't like dig out the details enough for me to like know where to go next with the inks. So I you know erased some spots and penciled in some more line work to I don't know, I basically think of the line work as like the training wheels, for my inking, so I know where to go next. That's why I don't know, I've seen some people like they some people have like really loose line work, like Adam Hughes and EVS, like their line work is it's discernible to them, but me looking at it, it's like I don't know what the heck they're drawing. And then they figure out all the details with the inking, and they're good at it. So, but I'm not at that level where I have the confidence to just pull out those inks and details like that with such a rough, pencil drawing. Uh, but I try to, flex those muscles anyway to, you know, keep it as loose as I can, where I could figure it out with the inks. And then, like I think I talked about in the other video about Bob Ross would, uh, he's famous for his only happy accidents. And then in one video I was watching, he's like, "All right, time for the bravery test," and he just, you know, throws a big paint streak down the middle of the paint, and then he makes a tree there, and it looks amazing because he knows what he's doing. So anyway, that's what I kind of think of with inking, and I'm trying to throw some details or line work that wasn't there or readable anyway to I, anyway. So I think of that as a bravery test, and if it doesn't work, then whatever. I have acrylic paint to cover it up. I don't have any because there's like a bunch of stuff, opaque inks you could use. The acrylic brush markers, since I already got those, they seem to work pretty good. But you really got to make sure that the ink is dry. So I'll like go over and erase it just to make sure the ink work won't get picked up by the acrylic brush markers, because that does happen as well. In any case, yeah, just don't. I gotta keep reminding myself about that. Don't be afraid to use the whiteout correction. And for this face, I really wanted it to be mostly just black and white, like stark contrast with very little rendering. But that very little rendering turned into me just rendering the face a lot more than I wanted. I don't think I flattened it out or anything, but it's just not as cool as I wanted it to look. I think it's passable. Like, to me, it's passable anyway. That's so the I think the number one goal is still intact, is to make it readable and serviceable to the story. Um, and by readable, I mean like guiding the eye visually to the next panel after this. Uh, and like that's supposed to be Sakal's face. So as long as I got that anyway, um, yeah. So already covered the eating the heart part. The hair, I was thinking more like Travis Charest. I was looking at his work in Wildcats, the second volume. There's in the second issue, Maul and Voodoo. They get abducted, but well, anyway, the person that abducted them, she's like a redheaded woman, and like how her hair looked to me, it looked like just lines, um, like flowing lines, and they kind of all just were in. I don't know how to explain it. It's like chunks of hair, but then there was just like lines inside of the chunks of hair that just kind of kept flowing into each other. So that's how I was imagining doing Sakal's hair. That's the wind is kind of blowing it forward towards the next where your eye is supposed to go. Looking at Sakal's face, I like drawing really big ears. Um, I think that looks cool. I think I got picked that up from Todd McFarlane because he tends to draw big ears on people. Uh, I don't know. I think that looks cool. But anyway, looking at Sakal's ridiculously big ear, I might have made his ear too big. So I might pull that back a little bit. Uh, I did like the idea of it like breaking out of the panel border there. That I don't know. Maybe that'll be a last minute correction if I do correct it at all. So this is the rendering part. I'm happy that I could with rendering. I was on David Finch's review stream, the last one that he had there, and he pretty much said how I was thinking about my level of rendering skills was he was like, it's serviceable, you don't overdo it. And then he said it's not a strong point, and like that's exactly how I felt about it, or and still feel about it. I want to get like really good at it, the like that badass. I don't know. Everybody always thinks of Jim Lee, but I was trying to think of another name because he's not the only one that does really cool rendering techniques. Um, but anyway, yeah, I want to get like more to that level. But I don't know. I guess it'll just be more studying and bravery tests and all that, and correction, a lot of whiteout. For now, though, this is where I'm at. Just kind of thickening up more lines and doing more of that hair uh, Travis Schrey pattern, that how I interpret it anyway for this guy. Did I already say his name? Elliot Karn. Anyway, that's the guy who's coming out in the got kicked, and he's in the foreshortened there. Um, he's more of a he's supposed to look like an older guy, so these normal vampires, they live to about 300 to 400 years old. So he's probably pushing 300 or over 300. Of But he's still badass enough to be in a special ops team. Mark Bolton suggested. Mark Bolton's the editor for my comic. He suggested for the first page, I have the team. They're going over their mission that they're going to have here to fight Sakal or take on Sakal, and you find out like right away that most of these guys didn't even know Sakal was like a real thing. They thought he was like just a mythical story, a boogeyman that was told to scare people or whatever. And as each member of the team talks, he suggested I introduce him. So that was like a really cool idea, I thought. But not every member of the team talked. There's like 12 of them, and then they got their leader, the lieutenant Wychek. I think that's how you pronounce it. I looked it up online to find some more like Eastern European names to seem, I don't know, that just seems more like vampiric stuff, vampire lore. So I don't have a bunch of people like the last name Smith or Johnson. However, yeah, I thought that was a good idea for them all to have introductions as like right away when you first see them, so you don't have to like see the same person for a few panels or a few pages and then rely on the dialogue to hopefully fill you in on who they are later. I guess unless the story calls for that to keep someone more hidden than usual. But yeah, that's just more storytelling tricks that I'm picking up along the way, and I think that's more reason to have an editor. I mean, because they could see things from a different point of view, and hopefully, if you do get an editor, it's someone that's made comics before, so they could offer more ideas about storytelling, the visual and the written, for the comic that you want to produce. Um, and yeah, Mark Bolton, he's got quite a few horror comics, so horror slash action slash comedy, basically like all the stuff that my book is. I wouldn't say so much of the comedy. There's like comedic parts in there. Uh, More of the action horror, and I got really lucky with getting a colorist too, and she happens to like the horror genre as well, so her coloring goes with it pretty good. It's like peanut butter and jelly or steak and eggs. You get the idea. Um, yeah, I would have had a colorist for the first one, other than me doing the coloring. And I was aware of Tanya's work. She was at the time though, she couldn't do like a big project, and my first volume one was 50 pages. She said something like she could only do something that's like 20 pages because she had another project she was working on. So I was like, "Ah, all right, well maybe I'll get lucky for the next book." And sure enough, yeah, she she had an opening for to take on any coloring work. So I got lucky in that aspect. And same thing with Mark Polton. I got lucky getting him as an editor, because the the I think the day before that I asked him was he was on Pete Smetty's channel, and he was asking Pete Smetty asked him if he's doing any editorial work, because Mark Polton brought up that he's editor on some books, and then he was asking like if he's available to work on any books, and he's like, no, I'm all booked up. And but Sean aren't he helped me out, and I didn't know that they were like roommates at the time, or that they even knew each other. Or wait, no, I knew that they knew each other, but I didn't know that they were really good friends. And anyway, Sean was just like, yeah, just ask him. I'll let him know. And I was like, okay, cool. So I asked him, and yeah, I lucked out getting him as my editor as well. And here's where I think I'm over rendering the face. But like I said, I don't flatten it out or anything. It's just uh, not how I envisioned it when I was first laying out the lines for the face. And in fact, actually, after the video ended, and I came back from the fireworks show, there was a few parts that I added a bit more white out to take the some definition away, and then like a lower part of the jaw, I added a bit more black to because like I just thought it was too much rendering for the stark shadows. And like I said, I might make that ear smaller. Maybe not. I don't know. I still think it looks cool. It's like borderlining for me on like looking cool or just too goofy. So yeah, like this is part one for the video because I could only get like 3 hours in of inking, and I'll start up part two probably tomorrow. Otherwise, I still gotta do some I gotta add a logo to Mark Mark Rob Norton's cover. He did a cover for the comic. Him and Mitch Brewer, Blood Force Mitch. Blood Force Mitch, though, his cover came colored already by Lee Calba, and I just got the colors back. Actually, I got them back like a week ago for Rob Norton, but I just haven't updated the Kickstarter page, so I still got to do that and add the add the logo to it to the top of the cover, and then what do you make like a graphic to paste onto the Kickstarter page. Uh, yeah, the doing a Kickstarter page is a lot more work than I thought it would be. But all right, looks like I have 45 seconds left. If you made it this far, yeah, I would strongly recommend checking out the Kickstarter page. I think you'll like uh, really be blown away by the artwork and the dialogue, in my opinion. If horror, action, vampire story is your thing, otherwise, maybe you just want to like listen to me talk about whatever. I don't know if I really cover too many techniques in here, but if you're just doing that, that's fine too. Um, yeah, thanks for watching the video, and take it easy.